Okay. Well, good morning, everyone. So I am not Pastor Mark. Even though my name is Mark and my last name is Kennerly, I am not Pastor Mark David Kennerly. Let's just put that out there right now. I'm just Mark J. bringing a message today. That's all. All right. So we just want to thank everybody who's here today. Thank you for those that are watching online. And we just lift up the name of Jesus today. And so the title of my message is, I'm piggybacking off of Deacon Joe last week, and he talked about the power of failure. So I'm going to do the power of failure part 2, and my subtitle is Don't Be Afraid to Fail. So I want to take the time to piggyback off what Deacon Joe stated last week about failure. He spoke about how we are all going to fail at things in our life, and that we cannot allow ourselves to be held down by these failures. When we fall down, we have to pick ourselves back up. We cannot allow chains of failure to continue to hold us back from living a glorious and fruitful life. Have you ever done something or gone somewhere and you tripped and fell? You know, it's pretty embarrassing, right? But what did you do when you fell? You got right back up. And if it was a bad fall, you may have needed assistance to get back up, but you still got right back up. That is the essence of failure. We fall down, but it's not intended for us to stay there. We are to get right back up. Just like the song says, we fall down, but we get up. Deacon Joe did a good job teaching about this last week. I want to talk about something a little different today. I want to talk about the fear of failure and how that fear can stop us from becoming what God had intended us to be. Something else. Check, 1, 2. Okay, good. All right. This is why technology, I tell you. So it said, where was I? Something else that Deacon Joe said last week that kept running through my mind after he said it was, we live to die. Ecclesiastes 3:2 says, there's a time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to pluck up which has been planted. The concept of death can be touchy at times because we are then faced with remembering our loved ones that are no longer here and have transitioned from earth into the afterlife. And that makes us miss them. But the fact remains that death is the only certainty in life. If we are even blessed to be born, we have no control, for the most part, of when we will die. It is the one thing that each and every single one of us has in common. Every single one of us, male, female, black, white, won't matter, we are all going to have to contend with death. So since we already know that we are going to have to deal with death, at some point, what are we doing to make sure that we live? Not the kind of living as in you woke up this morning and you still have a pulse. Everyone take your 2 fingers, put it right here on your neck. Put it right there on your neck. You feel that little beat there? That means you're alive. And it'll be a little weird if you put your fingers there and you didn't feel anything. Then we're talking like The Walking Dead or some zombie show or something like that. And don't get me wrong. I'm very appreciative that I still have that pulse. But that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about what the kids are saying right now, living your best life. Can you say to yourself that you're living your best life? If you can, that's awesome. But there are a lot of people that are not. And the main reason is because they are afraid to fail. The word failure in the dictionary means lack of success. And a second definition means the omission of expected or required action. That's a pretty standard meaning that we can all understand. We try something and based on our expectations, if there was a lack of success, we might consider it a failure. How many times in our life have we thought about doing something, but we let doubt and fear enter our mind because we think, well, what if this fails? We then put that idea behind us and move on without even giving it a second chance. The Hall of Fame hockey player, Wayne Gretzky, is known for a famous quote that he said that he got from his dad. And it said, "You miss 100% of the shots you don't take." This is so accurate for all of us. If we do not even attempt to do anything, we are missing out on an opportunity that could have been ahead of us. So let's break this down a bit and see why we allow fear of failure to control us. Fear of failure stems from a fear of disappointment. Raise your hand if you like to be disappointed. No one, right? The word disappointment means sadness or displeasure caused by the non-fulfillment of one's hopes and expectations. When we try to do something, we will give ourselves expectations of what we think the outcome will be. Sometimes these expectations can be our own worst enemy. If you ever have a dream of being a singer and your expectation is that one day you're going to win a Grammy, and that doesn't happen, well, you may think that it was a failure. The thing is, however, what about all the people that you met along the way while you were singing? What about the lives that you touched just by hearing your voice? What you may have thought was a failure was actually a blessing. Let's all take a trip down memory lane. Let's recollect when we were a kid and we thought about what we wanted to be when we grew up. What was it that you imagined that you could be when you got older? Was it an astronaut? Was it a firefighter? Was it the president of the United States? The mind of a child is a beautiful thing. The dreams and goals that we come up with then, it's beautiful because there is nothing from stopping us from thinking those goals cannot be reached. It's when we get a little older and life punches us in the face that we are faced with disappointments. Then multiple disappointments on top of multiple disappointments happen. And because we don't like that feeling, we tend to fear failure. Once that happens, we stop trying to experience new things. We stop taking chances, even with things that could have benefited our lifestyle. Also, a fear of failure can keep us from becoming what God has intended for us. 2 Timothy 1:7 says, For God has not given us the spirit of fear, but of power and love and a sound mind. We should be familiar with this verse from multiple teachings throughout the years. But what does it really mean? The word fear here comes from the Greek word delias, which means cowardice or timidity. This verse will sting a little bit harder if it says, for God has not given us the spirit of cowardice. It's like, dang, God, I hear you. Whew, chillax, I got it. But the fact remains that God did not give us that spirit. Fear is a demonic spirit with intentions of keeping us from fulfilling the destiny that God has on our lives. It can be a very powerful spirit if we allow it to take control of us. Some people who allow themselves to be overcome by fear find themselves literally frozen in their tracks, and they have to calm down before they can actually move on, depending on what happens. That's how powerful that spirit of fear is. But as mentioned in 2 Timothy, God did not give us that spirit, but he gave us power, love, and a sound mind, which is actually much more powerful. I moved from Winchester to Los Angeles back in 1998. I moved out there to pursue a dream of acting. I was going to be an actor when I got out there. And And then when I lived out there, every now and then I would fly back out here for different occasions. And it was cool. I would get on a plane and I'd chill and I would have a good time. And I never had any issues with flying, even though I am not fond. I'm not going to say afraid. I am not fond of heights. But I would get on a plane and everything was fine. Well, one trip, my wife and I had to fly from LA back to Virginia to attend my best friend's college graduation. The flight from LA to here, it was so nice. Like I think it was like American Airlines or US, one of the big ones, one of the big carriers. But this was pre 9/11, so the plane wasn't packed. We pretty much had the whole back of the plane all to ourselves. It was so awesome, so awesome. We had a good time. We was watching TV on there. It was awesome. It was so awesome. So we enjoyed ourselves, coming out here. But the plane ride back home, let me tell you, I'll never forget this. We had to fly from Dulles to Utah for a connecting flight from Utah to LA. That flight from Utah to LA was the worst turbulence we had ever experienced in our life. I mean, it felt like the plane was trying to dance, the way it was shaking and dropping and everything. Almost thought the plane was trying to twerk, like it was trying to pop it, like it was really just like dipping, like and all kind of, it was insane. And to make matters worse, my wife is sick. She's 6 months pregnant with my daughter at this time. So, she already like, get me off of here. And then we're sitting next to this lady was like, oh, I fly all the time. Well, she was like, but I've never experienced any turbulence like this. We're like, oh, thanks, lady. Thank you so much. So we basically had to we prayed together and then we kind of we just had to lay our head. All we basically do was try to make ourselves go to sleep so that we could get through the flight. So we made it back home. Everything was fine. We were good. The problem was we had swore off flying ever since after that. We were like, nope, not getting on a plane anymore anytime soon. So any other time that we had to come from LA back to Virginia, we drove. 3,000 miles one way, and we were there and back, and we were like, nope, let's just get a car. We're going to drive there. We're going to drive back. So we did that for the longest time. We would just drive to, because that's how we had to get places. Now, because of this we're not going to fly issue, that limited what we could do on vacations. Basically, when we had a vacation that we wanted to do, it was limited to how far do we need to drive to get there? Because we're not getting there any other way besides driving. And so that really hindered us because we have never gone anywhere exotic at that time. Our vacations was Florida or Florida. The only place we went was Florida. And so we would have friends, they make Facebook posts about their little vacation. They go to Aruba or Bahamas and things like that. And we just looked at it like, man, that sure is nice. It'd be nice if we were able to do that one day. But unless the United States built a bridge to go across the oceans to get to those islands, we were not going to do that. So we just look at everybody else's posts. That's nice. Not going to happen. So now is 15 years, we wanted to celebrate our 15-year anniversary. And remember, we had never gone anywhere, and we had never had a honeymoon at this point. And so we were like, we really want to do something. We don't want to go to Florida again. We were thinking about going to the Poconos, and nothing against the Poconos, but it's the Poconos, it's not exotic. So we made the decision. We said, you know what? Let's go to Jamaica. So we decided that we were going to go to Jamaica. And we saved up our money and we, paid for it. We paid for that plane ticket. Lo and behold, we got on that plane and we went to Jamaica. And we had an amazing time. We had such a good time that we still talk about it almost every day. I mean, we talk about, we got pictures, like my screen, my background on my computer at work is all the pictures from our Jamaica trip. Like and sometimes when I'm like typing in numbers and whatnot, I look at those pictures and be like, oh, that was so nice. It was so nice to be there. But I say all this to say, if you let fear take over you, you're just going to miss out on things. Not only did we finally, and we prayed. Oh, did we pray before we got on that plane, boy? And so we prayed to be able to make that trip. And we had such an amazing time that we went back again 2 years later. And then we're scheduled to go this year for our 20-year anniversary, but everybody's best friend, COVID-19, had to show up. And so we had to move our trip. And so we're going again in December. So over Christmas, we're going back to Jamaica again. And so the goal is to say, don't let fear stop you from doing things that you really want to do. Because you can be missing out on things. I'm so glad we didn't miss out on that because, it's our favorite place, and that's all we want to go to. I want to live there. After my kids graduate and I'm let's move to Jamaica because it's awesome. But anyway, that's the whole point of that story. It's not let fear capture you. So 1 John 4:18 says, there is no fear in love, but perfect love casteth out fear, because fear hath torment. He that feareth is not made perfect in love. And that's how we were for a long time. We were tormented by getting on this plane thing. But we can't allow that to continue to torment us. Okay, so now that we have touched on fear, what does it have to do with fear of failure? Well, the fear of failure can come from many different situations. It can be passed down from a parent to a child. Remember a little bit earlier when I told you to remember what you wanted to be when you grew up? How many of you told that to your parents and they told you, there's no way you can do that for whatever reason? Did they say anything to you about it just being non-realistic? If so, then you had to deal with the disappointment of their opinion. And as a child, that does not feel good. So since you do not want to experience that feeling anymore, you develop a fear of potential failure. It may not have been your parents' fault. We have a culture that teaches that we are born, we go to school, we graduate. After graduation, some of us go to college, some of us join the workforce, some of us go into the military. After we do that, we get a good job. You stay at that job for years because it's good to you. You don't do anything else. You just stay at that good job. Sometimes we don't even leave the area that we grew up in. We don't experience different things because we're settling for, I'm good here. I don't need to do anything different. We are taught to be comfortable, so comfortable that it keeps us from taking chances and doing things, and these things could be what God has a calling. These things could be what God is calling us to do for his kingdom. Well, what are these things that I'm talking about? Well, Acts 1:8 says, but ye shall receive power. After that, the Holy Ghost is come upon you. And ye shall be witnesses unto me, both in Jerusalem and in all of Judea and in Samaria and unto the uttermost parts of the earth. Some of you in here right now, or someone that has had the thought of sharing your life story or your testimony. Maybe you thought it was something that you could not do. Maybe you thought it would be too difficult. Maybe you did not think that it's something that you could do. We are all called to be witnesses of Christ. We are called to share the gospel of Christ. So we have an obligation to fulfill his calling. One of the best and sometimes most important ways we can do this is through our own personal testimonies. When we are able to share what God has done in our lives to unbelievers, that has the potential to bring that person to Christ. Some of you here right now have a truly remarkable testimony, but you're not sharing it with anyone. So only a small number of people may know about it. Why are you not sharing your testimony? Are you not sharing it because of a fear of failure? What is stopping you from writing a book about your life and your story? Now think about this. What if your testimony is about overcoming drug and alcohol abuse? or you have overcome physical or sexual abuse and by the power of God's love. Somebody might need to hear that. It could potentially change their life. But if you are not going to share your testimony, that person may never hear it. And it doesn't have to be through a book. You can share your testimony anywhere and at any time. Technology has advanced so much in the past 20 years to make it even easier for our voices to be heard. You can blog about it. You can share about it online. You can start a podcast or even your own video channel and basically create your own TV show. The possibilities are infinite, and all you have to do is get out the boat. Another reason why people will have a fear of failure is because they may be disappointed in the expected results. Or why did you try something? What were your goals? Were your goals realistic, and were they met? Let's say, and I keep saying let's say, like today is like all about imagine. Yay, we're going to imagine things today. Let's say, however, let's say you dreamed of being an artist, okay? And so you put all your time and effort, and you're into painting pictures of landscapes, let's say. Sounds very nice and reasonable. Let's also say, however, that you were going to paint these pictures as your full-time job, and you were going to charge $1,000 per picture sold, and you were going to live off this for the rest of your life. Well, you do it, right? And 6 months in, you've sold 3 pictures, and you had to finagle yourself to get at least $200 per picture. And now you can't even eat because you don't have enough money for food. This may sound outlandish, but some people really have these high expectations that they are trying to reach. So if you do not reach these goals, they may be turned off from doing anything else because they may feel like they're a failure. Some of you in here right now may have tried to start a business or create a product, and it didn't have the results that you expected for yourself. But I'm here to tell you today not to give up on that dream. Matthew 6:33 says, "But seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you." Remember, in anything that you want to pursue, seek God first. Hear from him first to make sure that you are doing what he wants you to do, and base your expectations off of him. 3 John 1:2 says, "Beloved, I wish above all things thou mayest prosper and be in health, even as thy soul prospereth." Yes, God wants us to prosper, but he wants our souls to prosper even more. If the only reason why you wanted to pursue these goals and dreams is to become rich and famous, then you are already setting yourself up to fail. There is a reason why there is only 1% of the world that is extremely rich. Do not let that be the reason you do anything. Rather, set your goals as to how many lives you can touch by talking about God. Here we go. Here we got another one. Let's imagine again. Let's imagine that you want to be a chef, right? And so you have these goals and dreams of being a chef. Not only do you cook fabulous meals, but you also create products that you can sell. Now, what if on the packaging of your products, you put a little Bible scripture on there? You put it right on the label. Now, what if you put words of encouragement on your labels? Imagine that someone bought one of your products, and let's also say that they were gripped with depression and anxiety. One day while they were in their kitchen cooking, they used one of your products, and they read the label, and it had the word of God on there, and it was a word of encouragement. That may be the catalyst to help them get their life in order. See, it's little things like this that we all need to think about. Another thing to focus on when dealing with expectation is the freedom of time. Time is just as important, or even more so, than money. Do you know that if you have your own business, you can set your own schedule? You can do it however you want it. If you only wanted to work a couple of days a week, it's on you. You can do that. You are your own boss, so you can choose how you want to work it. Now, let's imagine, again, I'm sorry for making you do all this imagining thing, but let's just say that you start a janitorial business. And let's say it's doing pretty well. You have a few staff members, and things are looking good. You send them off to clean and things like that. Okay, cool, very cool. Now, you may say, well, how does my business benefit God if I'm just doing the janitorial service? Like, do you want me to talk to the floors and pray at the floors? Well, actually, you can. You actually really could, because you could be blessing the building that you're cleaning at that time. But I'm not really talking about that just at this second. No, but what happens is, if it's your business and you are your own boss, you can give yourself free time to do other things that the Lord may need you to do. I was over at my mom's house the other day, and we got to talking, and she was telling me about a coworker of hers. And she said this coworker volunteers her time to help the homeless in Winchester. She said that, and I did not know about this, but she said that there are actually homeless camps in Winchester. There's one behind Solenberger's. There's another one behind the Food Line that's on Berryville Avenue. She told me that there's another place there too. And there's camps, tents set up. There's like full-fledged camps there. And so her coworker will volunteer their time. Her and her husband, a couple other people, they'll bring their truck. They'll clean up whatever trash is there. They'll bring food or whatever is there. They'll just do whatever they can to help anybody that's in that situation. And, who would believe that a little rinky-dinky town like Winchester has a homeless problem that you would think is, for D.C. or New York or anything like that? No, it's right here. And so imagine if you had your own business, you set your own time frame. So if you said, I'm not working on Mondays, I'll work Tuesday through Friday, well, you can use Mondays to volunteer to help do the same things, help the homeless. You can volunteer here at church. Like, there's still plenty of stuff that we can do here in this building here at church, that all we just need is people with time. That's all we really need is time. So once you're your own boss, you can set your schedule to however you need to do it to free yourself up with time. Because James 1:27 says, pure religion and undefiled before God and the Father is this, to visit the fatherless and the widows in their affliction, and to keep himself unspotted from the world. See, you may have thought that you were starting your business for your benefit, but it could be for the benefit of God and his people. Imagine what you can do here in this church just by donating your free time. Colossians 3:23 says, and whatsoever ye do, do it heartily as to the Lord and not unto men. We need to set our expectations as to what God would want us to do, not try to be, reach these lofty goals of men. If we do obtain a sufficient financial blessing with anything that we do, that's awesome. But we cannot allow that to be the only reason why we do anything. Some of you may already know, and if you don't, free plug, that my wife and I started a podcast a couple years ago called The Really Married Show. And our podcast is about marriages and what we have to do to keep marriages strong. We basically talk about our marriage, and we try to keep it real. We don't sugarfoot anything. We keep it real. We talk about the trials. We talk about tribulations. We talk about the ups and the downs that happens when with any married people. Well, we did not start that with a goal of being like some sort of millionaires and doing public speaking, or we didn't start it to do anything like that. We really only started it because at that time, we had some friends that were dealing with marriage issues, and some of them made it. Some of them didn't make it. Some of them ended up getting divorced. So we wanted to be a voice to tell people, hey, you can do this. Keep up the good fight. You can do it. Well, the cool thing about that is that we do our podcast, and people can listen to it at any time, anywhere. And the cool thing about it is that we get stats. We get like all these stats about how many people have listened. And so we had reached a goal a couple months ago that we have over 1,000 downloads. Seems pretty cool, like 1,000 downloads of that. Now, to some people that are out there, 1,000 may not be like, they'd be like, oh, you got 1,000, that's cute. Good job for you. But for us, it's different because that just tells, because we're really bad at recording. So we've only done 15 episodes of this podcast. We've had it for like 3 years, and we've only done 15 episodes. But in 15 episodes, 1,000 people have listened to the things that we had to say. We could be potentially touching the lives and the marriages of all these people, and we don't even know them because it gives you stats of where people are listening. We have people from Ireland, Korea, Canada, across the United States, people that we have no idea who they are, but they took the time to listen to something that we had to say. See, the key to all this is to seek God, find your voice and do it, because we just never know who we're going to help. We cannot be afraid to fail at something just because we may have failed in the past. In God's eyes, sometimes we have to fail because it was not our season yet for that venture. Maybe things didn't work out because the technology was not available at the time, but it may be now. Like I said previously, technology has changed in the past 20 years. Shoot, it's even changed in the past 5 years. My wife and I are now looking into doing our podcast over video and streaming it to like a Twitch or Facebook side type of deal. So it's like our own little talk show, no big deal, because more people would like to see you than just listen to you. So we can even reach more people. And so all we're going to do is talk about ourselves, talk about God. Maybe that'll help them in their marriage, and they can do the same thing for somebody else. Who knows how many lives can be reached and how many marriages can be helped? I don't know if anything that I'm saying this morning is touching anybody, but I just feel like there are some of you in here that you want to pursue something different in your life, that you have dreams and goals that you may have had since you were a child, but you may have tried it and it didn't work out, or the expectations what you wanted them to be, so you gave up on them. I feel like some of you in here have a testimony that needs to be shared with other people, but you're afraid of what it's going to take to get out there, or you're afraid of what people are going to say. Some of you want to start your own business, but you're afraid it will not work out, and you are comfortable with what you are doing right now in your current occupation. I'm just here to tell you that to not let fear of failure keep you from doing anything. Judges 6:22 and 24 in the NIV says, when Gideon realized that it was the angel of the Lord, he exclaimed, "Alas, sovereign Lord, I have seen the angel of the Lord face to face." But the Lord said to him, "Peace, do not be afraid. You are not going to die." So Gideon built an altar to the Lord there and called it "The Lord is Peace." To this day it stands in Ophrah, or the Asbarites. Gideon took the time to converse with God to make sure that he was on firm footing. He had heard God's voice, and God really did want him to do the very hard task of defeating the Midianites. Not only did God task Gideon with defeating his enemies, but he even told him to reduce the number of his troops from 32,000 to 300. Because God basically said, "Look, homie, I've got your back." God is saying this to us. Look, I've got your back. Philippians 4:13 says, "I can do all things through Christ which strengthens me." Psalm 46:1-3 says, "God is our refuge and strength, a very present help in trouble. Therefore will not we fear, though the earth be removed, and though the mountains be carried into the midst of the sea. Though the waters therefore roar and be troubled, though the mountains shake and the swelling thereof." Selah. In closing, I just want some of you to continue to dream. Continue to make goals. Continue to strive for bigger and better things. And those bigger and better things, they don't have to always be about money. If you have a testimony, share it with the world. Write a book. It's so easy now to be self-published that pretty much anybody can do it. Don't want to write a book? Okay, cool. Then start an online blog. You can do that for less than $10. Start a podcast and put your voice out there. You have absolutely no idea whose life that you can touch. You want to go back to school, get a degree? Go ahead, do it. You don't have to take 15 classes all at the same time. Work at your own pace. Take the time that you need to absorb the information. Don't have the money to do so? Guess what? There are plenty of places right now that you could get the same exact information for free. How many of you do that? How many of you know that Harvard University has free online courses and you can actually get a certificate in whatever the course is? Harvard University. How nice would that be to have, I have a certificate from Harvard University, and you got it for free. Does anybody here have an iPhone? Anybody have an iPhone in here? Did you know that there's something on iPhone called iTunes U? Basically, it's iTunes University. They have hundreds of college-level courses right there on your phone, all of them for free. And these are like legit courses. I looked into a couple of them, and they are legit courses. They tell you week by week by week which class you're supposed to take. There's homework. There's every single thing that you would do in a college course. You can do it right there through your phone for free. So you can still get the same education of something that you wanted to do or dream of, and you can do it for free. Want to start a business? Awesome. Talk to God about what you want your business to be. What is the purpose of it? Are you trying to be rich or are you trying to be independent? Can you start your business while working at your current job? Absolutely. I did that when I started my business. And when I left that job to do my business full time, it was tough. Really, really tough. I took a huge pay cut for like the first year or two of the business. And I'm very thankful that I had my wife's support because this was a lot of sacrifices that we had to make. And you will too. But the payoff can be tremendous. Remember to ask yourself, how can this business be pleasing to God? If it's your business, you can choose how you want to show off God any way you want. And then strive to have more free time to do God's work. And while you're doing all these things, make sure you get someone to be in your corner. Not everybody's going to agree with the things that you want to do. That's why the first person you reach to, you reach to God first. Then you can hear from God about who you should tell your ideas to. Because God will point you to the people that will be your cheerleaders. You know, they will tell you, okay, I think you should do this. I think you should do that. Maybe you shouldn't do it like this. Maybe do it like this. I've tried this. You know, talk to people that have done the similar things. You'd be like, they could tell you, I've done this in the past. This way didn't work for me, but I can do it this way. You know, get some people that are just going to be in your corner. I will be in everybody's corner. Y'all ever want to talk to me like, hey, I'm doing this. What do you think? I will be your 100% supporter, your cheerleader. I put a Facebook post the other day that's saying like, we don't celebrate each other enough. We all should be celebrating each other more. We should be like posting like, even if it's small things, like you accomplish something, you put a post about that, I'm going to be right there, be like, yes, that was awesome. That was amazing. Keep up the good work. Try to have as much people to back you up and keep you in your corner to keep you focused because you're going to get knocked down. You know, things are going to happen. There's going to be setbacks. But God, number one, will pick you back up, and then the people that are around you will help pick you back up. Always remember that we live to die, and we have no control over that. But the parts in between the living and dying is what we can control. We have to remember to step out of the boat and take chances. We cannot let the bubble of comfort from dreaming big dreams and reaching for high goals. We just simply cannot be afraid to fail. If we fall down, we have to get back up again and again and again. We have to even allow our children to fail and teach them that it's okay to get knocked down, but the goal is to get back up. We need to seek the wisdom of God, listen to his voice, and strive to honor him with any and everything that we do. And it's never too late to do so. You want to start a business in your later years? I highly encourage you to do so. Just remember that not only are we to live this life, we are to live our best life. I'm through. Let's give the Lord a hand in praise.